There's a video of like a pro player comparing it to like a pro CS player, and he's comparing it to Apex. And I was just like, why would you ever compare what? Like, it's, we're gonna talk about, do we think that Project A is going to kill Counter-Strike? It's kind of a thing that's talked about a lot. There's a lot of videos on it. I wanted to give my own take on it. I also wanted to compare it to games like Overwatch and games like Rainbow Six Siege, because I think that there are a lot of different games going on, and a lot of different comparisons going on, and I think that we could touch on it a little bit. We can kind of compare all the games and talk about the similarities between the two and why people might believe that it's going to kill these games, and then I'll give my take on it. So basically, will Project A be the Overwatch killer? Will Project A be the Rainbow Six killer? Will Project A be the Counter-Strike killer? Those will all be answered in this video. So if you're looking forward to that, be sure to drop the subscribe button down below. We do a lot of Project A stuff. Sweet. Let's get freaking into it, dude. This basically just makes me want to establish what kind of game Project A is most like, because I think there's a lot of discussion on it. And then talk about, does Project A really have any chance of killing these games? So the first game that we're going to talk about is Overwatch, because I think that that's the comparison that people draw a lot. And the reason for that is probably mostly due to the art style in the game. Like, if you look at the art style here, it looks very similar to Overwatch. If you literally put the games side by side, they look very similar. If anybody's ever played Overwatch, you know what I'm talking about. And that's probably why most people draw the comparison. Also, abilities. Abilities kind of make the games pretty similar as well. So you have abilities like Juno's Jump. So Juno could jump really high into the air. That sounds like something like Pharah's Leap. Or you have Sorteria's Res, which sounds like Mercy's Resurrect. They're very similar things. So, like, I can understand people drawing the comparison, but there are a lot of differences here. So, what I've seen, it doesn't seem like abilities in Project A are going to function the same way that they do in Overwatch. And I think that somebody who did a very good example of this, or who did a very good video on this, is the War Owl, when he's talking about Counter-Strike versus Project A. He did his own video on it. So if you wanted to go check that out, I would definitely go check it out. He's a very good content creator. He basically said for Overwatch, I like the way that he put it. He says, Overwatch has the I win buttons, which is when you charge up your ultimate, you like throw your ultimate ability and it just kills everybody. And Project A, it looks like abilities are a little different in this regard. Project A abilities, as we've seen before and as we've mentioned before, they kind of block off paths and stuff like that. They block off vision. Aside from like the Resurrect, which is pretty impactful, there's not anything that's just wiping an entire team. You don't see a Hanzo ultimate just like flying through like the middle of the map or anything. It seems like abilities are going to be mostly utility focused. Although smoke screens are impactful, they're not the same as wiping an entire team. Another comparison that people might draw to the game is the way that Overwatch weapons function. So if you see a character shooting in Overwatch, there's not a lot of recoil on their guns. They kind of shoot in like a similar fashion to how the characters shoot in this game, like a little bit. The gunplay is a little bit different, like where it's like a really low time to kill. But for the most part, it feels like I could kind of see a Soldier 76 firing in a similar way to like this right here. Like when she just aims down the sight, it looks like her ability or her bullets just kind of like go in a straight line. There's not really a lot of recoil. So aside from like time to kill, I could understand like the guns seeming a little similar. Not quite the exact same, but here's the big thing though. Overwatch is a team shooter, and it's based around the idea of having like a well-rounded team. Whereas like Project A is going to be a game that is like focused on like the tactical like round by round gameplay. So like in a game like Overwatch, you respawn. In a game like Project A, you don't. Like it's just that round. You play the round. It's kind of quick, but then it's like over. You get the break. And in Overwatch, it's kind of like constant fighting, you know, regrouping, getting your team in there and trying to take over the objective, trying to fight for control and stuff like that. Project A is not really the same. So I don't think Project A is necessarily going to be the Overwatch killer. I just don't think that's very likely. I think that the two games are going to have their audiences. There might be a little bit of a crossover, but Overwatch is always going to have its team shooter like audience, and Project A is going to be competing for more of a tactical FPS. So if you're thinking of tactical FPS, you're going to have to be comparing Project A more towards games like Counter-Strike or games like Rainbow Six Siege, which are both tactical shooters. And I know a lot of people don't actually like the comparison of Rainbow Six Siege. That's what I've heard. A lot of people, when you mention it, they're just like, dude, stop comparing it to Rainbow Six. And I kind of wanted to touch on this because I think it's worth addressing, because the games do have their similarities, but they also have their differences. So if you're going into a game like Project A and Rainbow Six, you're talking about similar time to kill. Operatives they have special abilities that provide utility, and it's a round-based game. Those are some similarities there, right? And I think some of the reasons that people get upset about these comparisons is the key features that make them different. So in a game like Rainbow Six, you have things like destructible walls. You have things like cameras. You have things like an economy, or like there's no economy system in Project A. There's no economy system in Rainbow Six. There's going to be one in Project A. You can sprint in Rainbow Six, which doesn't sound like a massive thing, but it's still something worth note. And then Rainbow Six also has a sort of like breach and entry style, which isn't really this similar to what we've seen. In Rainbow Six, it's like, how can you enter this building in like the best way? You blow up walls and stuff to do it. Most of the abilities in Rainbow Six are focused around like breaching an area and entering in like the most appropriate way. Project A is not the same. Most of the abilities look like they're used to like block off vision. They're similar to like smoke grenades and something like Counter-Strike. But the reason I bring up this game very frequently is because I think it's a good example of how certain features will function in a game with a very low time to kill. Time to kill, if you didn't put it together, is how long it takes to kill a target. It takes like 2 bullets in Project A, where we've seen headshots are like 1 shot a lot of the time. That's a very low time to kill, as compared to a game like Overwatch, where you could shoot Reinhardt like 400 times and he just doesn't die. You know, stuff like that. So some specific features that I would talk about in Rainbow Six that I could see being present in a game like Project A would be things like thermal sights, things like tracking footsteps, things like utility jammers. If people are placing traps and stuff like that, or if they have scanners, I don't know if cameras would ever be a thing, but like maybe, you know, and things like shields. So I think like maybe like there's a Reinhardt shield that you could throw down, or maybe there's like a shield that the character literally has. Maybe it's like a what's the one dude? He's like Blackbeard in Rainbow Six, and he has like the shield on his gun. Maybe that's a possible thing, like the Gibraltar shield in like Apex or something like that. Those are all things that I could see being possible in Project A. I don't know if they're necessarily. Maybe the shields are like a little bit overlined, but we have an example of how those things might work. That's why I really like to compare it to Rainbow Six, where it's like, if I ever think of an ability that I think could be present in Project A, I think, does Rainbow Six have something similar? Because if Rainbow Six has it, then that's an example of a game with a low time to kill that is still functioning with this mechanic in the game. If you put a Hanzo ultimate in Rainbow Six, that's not like that's gonna ruin the game, you know? So that's why I get worried with the abilities in the game, and like the fear that if they get too intense, it might not be good for the game, basically. With all that being said, though, Rainbow Six has a lot of features that Project A doesn't really look like they want in the game. So, like, the whole breach and entry thing, that's not something that Project A really looks like they have any interest in doing. It doesn't look like they have any interest in having destructible walls, so that just doesn't seem like something that's going to be present within the game, right? Rainbow Six is more like 007, where Project A is more like the Wild West, or the Avengers, sorry. Like, you have, like, they have their abilities and stuff like that. It's more like Duel-like. You know, the Avengers, if they died in one hit and were sponsored by Riot Games or something. So that brings us to our final game, though. If it's not going to kill Rainbow Six and it's not going to kill Overwatch, what's going to happen with Counter-Strike? That's the real discussion here, I guess. And that's the game that a lot of people have kind of compared it to. Will Project A be the Counter-Strike killer? Well, we have to look at the similarities within the game. They're both going to have economy systems, is what it looks like. Character abilities are going to function in the same light that grenades are going to function, it seems like, with a little bit of exception. You have like the ones who can jump into the air, the resurrect, and stuff like that. There's going to be different abilities within the game, but for the most part, it seems like there's a lot of utility-based stuff. Time to kill is about the same. Maps and art style looks pretty similar, and objectives look pretty similar as far as we know. We don't actually have any much idea on objectives. But now, not only all these things, but Riot is promising to fix issues that a lot of Counter-Strike players have complained about for like a while. Netcode, Peeker's Advantage, all like the buzzwords that you heard in the trailer. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these buzzwords don't really mean a whole lot to me because I never played shooters at a competitive level, but these are things that are very important to competitive players. So if they're going to be playing them in like in a high ranked manner, if these things are fixed, hypothetically speaking, this would be a better competitive game to play. If they fix these things with the similarities that Project A has, wouldn't Project A just be better than Counter-Strike and capture their audience? Probably not, and at least not overnight is what I was thinking. Counter-Strike has been around for like so long, and the people who play it have built up like such a large community around that game. Like, they're invested in it. They've grown with the community. They've learned. They've come to know the people. A lot of the pros in the Counter-Strike community have just like been around for a very long time, and they're just very well known. It doesn't seem to me that Project A, coming out, would take all these professional players and make them move. They're gonna stick to the game that they are familiar with. They're gonna stick to the game that they've loved for so long, right? Not to mention, Riot doesn't do abilities. If Riot doesn't do abilities right in this game, then that could completely shoot the game in the foot. We talk about like there's a lot of people really hyped for this game. It could just suck. Like, that could literally just happen. If the game is released and abilities are like really wonky and like they have like a weird impact on the game, like they're too strong or they're too weak or something like that, it kind of just becomes like a really like niche game that people might like because it's Riot Games. But like, if the game is not good, people are just gonna keep playing Counter-Strike, you know? I don't care if they fix all the issues with FPS, like the time to kill and stuff, or if the time to kill is too low and abilities end up being busted, then it just doesn't matter. The game is unplayable, right? I've heard so many stupid comparisons of people like in denial about Project A though, which I think is really funny. There's a video of like a pro player comparing it to like a pro CS player, and he's comparing it to Apex. And I was just like, why would you ever compare what? Like, Apex is a battle royale, and like Project A is like a tactical shooter. It really confused me when I saw that. But don't be mistaken, Project A is a direct competitor to Counter-Strike, basically. But Counter-Strike has been around like far too long, built way too strong a community. It will not be instantly deleted by Project A. And the only thing that I can think about, like, I don't think that it's impossible for games that have been around for so long to die. The thing that I would compare it to, I guess, would be StarCraft. StarCraft was around for quite a long time, and this was a little bit before my time as well, but StarCraft is not really a thing anymore today. And the reason, or my understanding of that, has been kind of because Overwatch, or not Overwatch, kind of because Blizzard kind of shot themselves in the foot. And I don't know a lot about this information, but that's just basically what I've heard. And that just makes me think that if Counter-Strike is ever going to die, it's probably going to be on their own sword. Like, I don't think that Project A is going to come along and just absolutely delete Counter-Strike. I think that if Counter-Strike or Valve starts coming out and like ruining the freaking game, which I don't think is going to happen, at least anytime soon, I think it's entirely possible. That being said, though, like every empire like supposedly falls, so it's like I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe this is its time. I don't personally think so, but I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. If you think that Project A is going to kill Counter-Strike, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I had fun talking about this. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Dude, actually, this is something that I noticed. According to this app that I have, I don't know what the grounds are on for this, but apparently I am the top Project A creator on YouTube, which is pretty cool. I mean, like, this is what I've been saying. I don't think anybody else is really creating Project A content, but like the fact that like I get to see my name whenever I pull this up, and I've done this for like when I'm not logged in or anything too. I think the metric for this is probably like videos published. I think I've probably published the most videos, or I had like the most videos in the top 10 here. But it's pretty cool. That's a good feeling. I've never been number one. My mom would be proud of me, dude. But anyway, thanks again, guys. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Freaking love your faces. And yeah, that's it. Okay, sweet.